Welcome back to At Home with Roby. I'm Patrick McIsaac from Roby Electric, along with Trent Haston from the Roby family of companies. Trent, we have a buddy of mine in the studio, but we're going to have to act in a mature, serious tone. We have an engineer in the house.
Oh, Lord.
And they're like
At
the
least
boss.
he's not a lawyer.
Yeah.
For all my lawyer buddies out there. Sue me! No, Greg Wiley, I think he's formerly of the Carolina Panthers, got in a little trouble there about 4 or 5 years ago. But
That's Greg Hardy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's not him.
No, Greg Wiley, he did say he had a football build when he came in.
Yeah, all of
What
about
are you,
5'8", about one.
Oh, I thought you were like
190.
6'10". I'm sorry.
5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing, and he engineers the best plans in town.
There you go.
Actually, what he said
I'm
was,
just
when
kidding.
I was picking on how short he was, because I pick on people when I meet them, was I got to get me a pair of cowboy boots too.
Yeah.
Add another inch or so.
Actually, I have a pair. I just don't wear them enough.
Greg, I have Napoleon syndrome. Just roll with me, dog. Okay.
Wow.
Engitecture is the name of your firm, and Patrick wanted me to know you and Patrick are good buddies, and we share a lot of business, but that you're a solopreneur.
Yes, sir.
So, what the heck does Engitecture?
Well, it's the engineering for architecture. So you call it Engitecture. I like to call it Engitecture. But
He calls a lot of things.
I draw
that. Yeah.
I was trying to talk to my daughter last night about how a southern drawl, and I was explaining, what you gotta do is you just let the end of your word. You don't finish it out.
Let me guess. You were listening to our podcast. And
Always,
she's like,
but not
why
last
does that
night.
guy talk so funny, Daddy?
It's At Home with Roby.
Like, baby, he's got that
Roby.
river draw.
It's not Roby. It's Roby.
Roby.
But anyway, but Engitecture, so it's the engineering for architecture. And so the reason I came up with that name is my wife and I were driving back from the beach last summer, and that was when I was really getting this in mind and what I wanted to do and coming up with the name. And I didn't want it to be Wiley Engineering or Greg Wiley or anything like that, because who knows what will happen on down the road. So, I was came up with about 12 different names, and this was the only one where the .com wasn't taken.
Time out.
Yeah.
Business lesson of the day. First one. Don't let it be about you and your ego, because you don't want to constrain the business later.
That's right.
When you want to bring in other people, grow, do different things, maybe exit the business or whatever. It isn't about you. It's about the brand of the business and what the business does, correct?
That
And
is
your
correct.
customers.
Yeah.
So,
And then this one, it could have engineering, and then maybe I could bring in architecture on down the road, and
There you go.
wouldn't have to change the name. So you never know.
Well, and Trent says this a lot, and there's a reason why his last name is Haston, and it's not Roby, even though I think he's contemplated changing his name to Roby. I know you wouldn't do that to your namesake.
I would definitely do it.
But I mean, everybody thinks of him as probably Trent, and people that don't know him might think your last name is Roby if they just knew your first name.
Well, we know when somebody's a fraud and they call the office and say, hey, can I talk to Mr. Roby? yeah, you can talk to Mr. Roby. Never. So no shame to hanging up on those folks. But
Well, Greg, let's talk about what exactly an engineer and an architect does in the construction world. I mean, we talked a little bit before he came on about we have formed a relationship installing car chargers for EnviroSpark. Our friend Dan Alt, who you introduced us to. And tell us exactly what you do in that process. So maybe the listening audience that says, what does an engineer do for an electrical contractor as far as getting the job done? What is his role, or what is your role?
For that type of specific project, you have the car charger, which might be 100 feet, 300 feet away from the place that we're going to power it from.
Right.
So what you have to do there is you got to figure out, you've got voltage drop that goes all the way back to the panel. So the voltage that comes out of the panel might not be the same by the time it gets to you. So I have to run calculations for that. And then we have to figure out, these car chargers can take 50 or 60 amps of load at 208 volts. So everything breaks down to wattage. So it takes a significant amount of wattage. So then you're considering, when you have 3 or 4 chargers at a location, out in the parking deck or outside the building or something like that, you've got somebody like Dan will say, "Oh, we've got chargers. There's room on the panel." Well, not necessarily. Because we have to figure out how much wattage goes into the panel. So I have to be able to run it all the way back to where it comes into the building in that big green box and figure out, every step down how much wattage we have available because the last thing we want to happen is you install it, they start charging it up, and the first time they have all 4 chargers being used, it trips the breaker.
What? Time out. I mean, if you're just joining us, we have Greg Wiley with Engitecture.
Yes, sir.
The hybrid industry of architecture and engineering. And he's talking about his business, his new venture, and he's I don't understand though. You're doing car chargers. It's like my old little RC car I had. I mean, that's one of the things you do. Why are you working for a dying industry? I was at my mom's house the other night looking at it. It looks like it's not. I mean,
right.
But no, you're working. I'm joking.
I understand.
You're doing Teslas and such.
Yes.
You think this is going to be a growing industry?
Well, actually, yes.
Okay.
Big time, because Tesla is about to come out with their Model 3, I believe it is. That's that $35,000 car. And so what they're doing, $35,000 Tesla. And what they're doing is they are ramping up their supercharging stations. So these are chargers that you can go around the country, usually right off the interstate, and you can charge your Tesla in 30 minutes.
So grab a bite to eat and charge my Tesla, and off I go.
Are you going to follow him around the country and running power to his chargers?
I am his Huckleberry.
But the thing is really where I come in is only in jurisdictions that require permitting.
You said something like, God bless the good government?
I didn't say that.
Well, I think that he probably means that, because that's what obviously helps his profession.
I do love bureaucracy.
We do as well.
In one way, I'm needed.
Yes.
In other ways, we could be here all day talking about this, but in the true essence of the thing, there are projects where engineers are needed because the contractor's like, this is just above really what I feel comfortable putting my stamp on.
We want to shed liability.
Right. Let's want to shed liability. There you go.
Exactly
that's what my stamp is for.
I want your stamp.
That's right. And so and then there are other projects where someone like the great state of Mecklenburg would say, I'm kidding.
He's from Raleigh.
You do love bureaucracy.
Yeah.
When you say the great state of Mecklenburg, it's a little backhanded compliment.
Well, that's it. In the construction industry, I've heard that many.
I would never. No. I love her. I love Mecklenburg County Permitting.
I love them too.
The Building Development Commission does a great job.
They do, and I think what we're trying to say, Dan, is really your job is the CYA, and if you don't know what that means, then let's not worry about that particularly. But you help the contractor stay out of trouble. Hey, if we're not sure about something, we need that extra bit of confidence on how we're trying to go about something. I mean, that's really what you went to school for. That's what you got a license to do as a practicing engineer, is to keep us on the right. I mean, and as well as business owners. For example, what if I'm a restaurant, right, and I want to reconfigure my kitchen, and I assume that I have the proper power? That would be somebody that could call you, and you could come out and actually draw a plan. So when they call the electrical contractor, Arobi Electric or Arobi Electric or Arobi Electric, they know what to do. Not, I'm thinking about doing this, and they get 8 different numbers from 8 different people because they're not sure. You make the plan clear.
That's correct. And I make it clear, and then they can go to multiple contractors like Roby.
Yeah.
Patrick, you got to slip me to 20 before you start exploiting your brand, not
Sorry,
after.
Man.
I mean, I don't get paid in arrears, dog.
But that's correct. But I mean, I've done anything from a high-rise design to a electric vehicle car charging to a bathroom. So, just right now I've got projects that are like apartment clubhouses. I've got a demising project where you take 5 tenants and turn it into 9 in a Class B office space. I am not above anything.
Well, hang in there. When we come back, if you'll stay with us,
certainly,
we'll talk about the other gamut of what you do in your solopreneur new business, Engitecture. And then we'll talk also just about entrepreneur ideas, and we like to talk about philosophies. We're checking a couple boxes here today. We have an industry-related person, an entrepreneur business person, and also something that's new and cutting edge. I do want to say I have a buddy that has a Tesla. I'm not a guru technology guy. I'm like anti-technology. And I was with him about a month ago, and the Tesla's really cool. It looks like you're on the moon looking through the roof. And I get in, and I said, what's this thing do? And first off, it sounds like a wind-up because it's batteryized, which is really cool. And he says, watch this. He takes his hand off the steering wheel and hits the gas. And we went 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds. And he wasn't even steering. So I'm going to leave you with that, Charlotte. We will be back with Patrick McIsaac and Greg Wiley when we return. You're listening to At Home with Roby.